Want to know how my client Melanie made $30,000 on her first launch? Stay tuned. Is it really possible to hit 5 figures on your first launch? What do I need to have in place to have a successful launch? I've been ghosting my email list. How can I re-engage them so I can launch? These are questions I get asked all the time. And I get it. The idea of launching and putting all that effort into something that may or may not work, it's quite terrifying. My client Melanie came to me with these exact questions, and today we're going to be talking about exactly what we did to help her hit $30,000 on her first launch, beat her sales goal by 3 times 300%, and eliminate sales calls. Stay tuned on this video for the exact strategies I used to help Melanie beat her launch goals and her experience of launching a group program. She's sharing some great tips for you, especially if this is your first time launching. Trust me, you are going to want to stick around for this. It's incredible.
Now I don't do sales calls anymore, or discovery calls anymore. Now they just have to pay right away, 3 times more than what I had as a goal. The question you asked, I thought were really smart. It's such a beautiful feeling if something's just running in the background, it's doing its work, and you literally make money when you sleep.
But quickly, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Nikki Trailer. I help coaches, course creators, and digital product owners make more money from their products and programs by selling more and retaining more customers. Give me a thumbs up below if you want the behind the scenes access to more real life launch stories. Hi, Melanie. I am so excited to have you on the channel. We're here to talk about your launch, and everything was so amazing. Like, it really worked so well, and I can't wait to dive into the results and dive into how everything went. But first, I'd love to start by talking a bit about how you help people and the program that you were creating. So if you could quickly intro yourself and tell everyone what you do and about the program that you were launching.
Yeah, my pleasure. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always fun, not just chatting with you, but obviously about our work together, because it is very unique and a very good experience. So my program is called Never Alone, and I work in the intersection between canine science, the science of canine dog behavior, and dog training, putting the dog handler basically behind the wheel, giving everything they need so they can really work on something that is usually bothering them on a day-to-day basis, because it really matters what's happening every moment you interact with your dog. This program is really there to empower everyone to know at any given time what to do, why certain things didn't work, so that they can really help their dogs to become the dog that they want in the first place.
Amazing. And I had the pleasure of speaking to some of Melanie's clients during the launch process while we were doing the research phase. And I just can't commend you enough. Like, all of your clients just had the nicest things to say about working with you and how much you changed their lives. Just hearing that from your clients and how the work you did impacted them was incredible. So it made it very easy to do the selling for you. So I would love to think back to before your launch, and obviously this was the first time you really ran a big launch for your business. Can you think back to the time before we started working together? Kind of talk a little bit about what made you think about hiring support and what were your expectations for that process?
It was a time of many first times where I was really thinking about scaling my business more and more. I'm the kind of person who always does things herself first before hiring anyone. But there's something about copy that was intimidating to me. And I think everyone probably can relate to this. You know what you want to say and you just can't put it on paper. And I tried many times in different ways, not just with email marketing or launching, that I didn't even touch that, but like with social media, writing captions. So there's just like, you know there's something missing. You can't just pinpoint why and what is missing. The part that was a little challenging was to find someone who isn't falling into this template of sell, which, I can do. It just didn't sit right with me, because one of my biggest values that my business has is empathy, right? And simplicity and innovation, and it has to come through the copy. The third or biggest challenge for me is my background is science. So I was in the academia world for like 12 years. And what they hammer into you is no bloomy language, cut to the point. It's black and white. So my copy would probably have been wrapped up in 3 sentences if it was me writing it. So I foresaw a lot of challenges, and that kind of is like, okay, I want to do this right. This is really, really important to me. It's a big step, and I have the financial means to just to make it easier on myself. And I knew that I would probably get really frustrated. So I kind of took that leap of faith a little bit because, when we first started, I didn't really know you either, right? So we kind of, you never know. You never know until you know. Fortunately, there was probably one of the luckiest picks that I had in a long time. So no regrets there.
Amazing. Well, I'm very glad to hear that. But yeah, actually, I would love to ask you if what that process was like for you, because obviously you mentioned that maybe things hadn't gone so well in the past when you were outsourcing, or it's obviously quite a scary step, especially as someone who likes to do things themselves in their business. So I would love to just ask you kind of what made you sure it was the right decision? Like maybe after we got on a call together, were you confident in that decision, or was there still a little bit of like nerves around that hiring decision?
That's a good question. So I think you were one of the last person I actually interviewed, and I had probably 10 or 15 copywriters before you.
Wow.
There was a really busy, 2 weeks. If it's not a conversation and just someone saying, okay, this is what you want, here it is, basically if I have a feeling of I talk to someone and this person's main goal is to just please me rather than working with me to find what works. And I think I told you at the very beginning too, is like, I'm very open to criticism and feedback. And if I say something that doesn't make sense for you, please let me know. And I didn't get that a lot when I interviewed. And then there was this other category of people, copywriters I interviewed, that they were a little too confident of what needs to be done exactly without fully understanding my business yet. I went by gut feeling more than anything else when we talked, but I got a really good mix of you're confident in what you're doing, like you know what you're talking about when it comes to launches, but also you were really, really attentive to what I was been saying. And the question you asked, I thought were really smart. It's very obvious how much you're into something and how much you know based on the questions that you ask. And the questions you asked was like really on point and important questions that made me just feel really good. Like it made me feel like I'm in good hands.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear it, and I hope that trend continued. But I think so. I feel like we've worked on several projects since now, so that's amazing. Okay, I'm going to start diving into the launch itself and looking at some of the numbers as well. So you had quite a good sized email list, I remember, from our first conversation. Like, you'd been building up an audience for some time. You're not new in business. And I remember on the first call we had that you said you had a goal of around $10,000 for your launch. And based on the numbers, it was doable. But I remember also uncovering that you hadn't necessarily been emailing that list so regularly. So one of our goals was to re-engage the list before we started selling. So we wanted to warm them up, get them used to hearing from you so that they were okay getting an influx of launch emails. And so we decided to implement a waitlist strategy, which is something that I am a big fan of because I just think it puts your mind at ease so much. And it also gives you a chance to gauge how well people are responding to the messaging and make a contingency plan if you need to, which thankfully we didn't need to. Do you remember the numbers and how that kind of looked, pulling out that waitlist and getting to the point where you were launching and seeing those numbers build?
I do remember because I was very anxious. Because when you launch this and you're like picturing the worst case scenario of no one is going to go on this wait list, like, oh my God, my entire existence, and now I'm questioning everything. My email list, I think, was something between 2,500 and 3,000 at the time. I haven't really put any effort into making them familiar with me and that the expectations of that there might be something popping up in your inbox from me. So we started there, and fortunately though, we had kind of like an open rate of between 40 and 50% from the very beginning. It was nice. I think industry standard is 15 to 30% or something like that. I don't know, but we definitely were way above average. And then we started our waitlist formulas or emails. I remember you telling me like, don't look on this waitlist every hour when you send it. Don't get obsessed with it. Just wait it out. I expected to be no one and maybe 10 people on the waitlist out of like, I don't know, 1,000 people who opened it. I ended up having maybe 60, 70 people on the wait list. It was a lot given that they have never heard me say anything about what I'm about to launch. And it kind of continued growing. It was really nice to see that, and I get more responses.
Yeah, how did that make you feel going into the actual launch as well? Did it help with your confidence levels at all? Because I know that mindset can be so hard when you're opening cart and just praying everything works.
It did. I mean, it gave me hope that there's interest, right? And I think when you launch and then they actually find out about the price and all this, there's always a different story. But I think this is kind of proof of concept, right? We talked about kind of like the proof of concept. Is there even interest for something like that? And do the people on your email list are the right people on your email list? And that came together really nicely, I think, with that wait list. Again, just knowing that there's interest is one step, right? And then everything else just becomes a matter of more optimization or copywriting.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember you were a little bit nervous at the start of the launch when we actually opened your cart and people were able to buy the program that people weren't going to buy. Because I know with the launch, it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know if anyone watching hasn't been through a launch before. Typically, the first few days, you will sometimes get a spike in sales, but it's not always that big. And in the middle of the cart, you often have a slump when no one is buying and it can just feel horrible. You're like, is this even working? Does anyone care? And you're just feel like you're shouting into the void, and it's really hard to not keep checking the checkout page and see how many people have signed up. You're like refreshing, is this working? So I remember you coming to me and feeling like nervous that it wasn't working. Do you have any advice for people who are going through that? Because I mean, I know I gave you a little pep talk, but I'm sure you had to do a lot of managing that on your own as well. So what did you do to distract yourself?
I don't think I did a good job on distracting myself. I think I checked it. Oh, I checked it, not that I went in actively, but I do get I turned off my notifications on my email, but I do get an email whenever someone signed up. So I just turned off that notification to not waiting for a notification to happen and just check once a day maybe. But after the first couple of days when it actually happened and there were a couple sales, I kind of felt, I was like, okay, that's just is what it is, right? If you actually go more into research and see how launches go and hear people, copywriters like yourselves, talk about it, and most people say the first launch might not work out, right? This is a learning experience. And my own dog training students, I tell them all the time, like, trust the process. It might not happen right now, but it will happen eventually. So that kind of, and we put already so much work into it. And I like my copy. Like, I liked my copy that you wrote. so I felt like you just got to see it's not easy. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I felt so confident all the time and I knew and I believed in myself in this project. It's not the case. If you do this the first time, you really question everything a little bit. I think that's okay, and you just got to work with the numbers that you got, even if it hadn't worked out, right? I think the key point is that it doesn't mean that it's all shit. Sorry. That doesn't mean it's all bad. It just means that it needs some work or some optimization and you just learn from it.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's really important to point out that all marketing is an experiment. And obviously, if you hire someone like me, we do everything we can to do all the research and make sure that all of the decisions we're making is driven by data. We're not just writing some pretty words. We're not just pulling some words out of thin air. We are researching what your customers want to see and what they need to see to make that buying decision. So obviously we eliminate some of that risk, right? But there's never any guarantees. You just don't know what's happening in the market. You don't know what's going on in your customers' lives. So at the end of the day, all you can do from that, if you're struggling with your launch, is, tweak it, optimize it, do it differently next time. So I love that you had that approach. Maybe your scientific background helped you with that. Seeing everything as an experiment. Let's talk results a little bit. So do you want to do the honors on how much revenue we brought in and how many sales you had?
It was a little mixed in terms of where the students came from, because I also offered it to my existing students, which is also something mind-blowing. They're already in my program that I had before. Why would they go to a different one? They did get a discount, but I should really write the number down somewhere because it's my first launch. But I think I had something about $30,000, so 3 times more than what I had as a goal. The biggest part of them were new students, and then the third or so were existing students that came in.
It was amazing. Honestly, seeing those results was so good. And it was just a testament to obviously like everything you do and the fact that so many people who already work with you wanted to upgrade to the new program, but also that those people in your audience were waiting for an opportunity to work with you as well. So the copy did its work, but of course you're doing amazing things. So of course people wanted to work with you. I'd love to talk a little bit about sales calls as well, because I know that's something that you were doing a lot of previously. Like you were hopping on sales calls to convert a lot of people in all of your previous parts of your sales process. So I know we managed to reduce that a lot for you during this launch, and the copy was doing so much of the heavy lifting for you. Did you have to get on any sales calls at all through your launch?
No, I completely quit that. And this is a controversial topic between marketers and salespeople, because this classic, if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. I'm actually here to challenge that. I don't think that's true anymore. My entire business for the first 1.5 years was only sales calls. So it was, here's a webinar, hop on a call with me, and then sign up. For one, I'm just not the person I'm on the sales call and I'm selling. I lose some authenticity, but also I'm already solving problems on the call, because I can't be the person who just hints at it and is like, now you have to sign up. It's just not me, right? So if you are one-on-one with me, I want to help you in the moment. And as a business person, it makes sense then to ask for money for that, right? So maybe we want to talk about this later, because now I don't do sales calls anymore or discovery calls anymore. Now they just have to pay right away, which is my copy that kind of convinces them that they don't have to talk to me first. But the other thing also is it's not scalable. At some point, like how many hours per day can you spend on sales calls and then also have your program running and then also do content creation and do everything that you need to do as a modern entrepreneur? It's not scalable.
Yeah, I love that. And especially as you're someone who feels like you have to over deliver on those calls as well. I feel like that just takes a lot out of you. And then it's like you're over delivering. And then it's like, if that experience doesn't match up, then yeah, it's just not good for your overall business and how you feel about it as well, which is so important. So yeah, no, I absolutely love that you mentioned that. Okay, so I just really want to wrap this up by talking a bit about, obviously we did the launch together, we wrote all the copy for the launch, and you're still able to leverage those materials. So we've turned the launch into an evergreen funnel, which is now working for you in the background. It's not just like copy that you get once and you're burning it all down. So can you talk a little bit about how that copy is still able to impact your business as well, now that your launch is done and dusted and in the past?
The first version was, again, the launch of this live program. I tweaked it a little bit for the evergreen version, took out the bonuses, took out some live aspects of it, put it on a nice sales page. And that is now one of the first things that you click on when you go on my social media accounts. And then all the other services, we also wrote copy together. And that's just, it's such a beautiful feeling if something is just running in the background, it's doing its work, and you literally make money when you sleep. You did a webinar for me, at least a copy for it, right? So that is free version. Like everything is covered, right? So here's a free material, here's the small program that you can buy, here's the bigger one, and then there's the live version that you have to wait for. It carries on because, some of the beautiful sentences that you wrote, I still use them and pick some of them for like social media, like headlines kind of thing, and just like, here's like one thing that we talked about in the copy, and then create a social media strategy or like a post around this, just to be cohesive in terms of the message that you're sending. I think Never Alone kind of is my flagship program, and everything kind of deviates from there, and everything kind of has this core message in there. It's not just buy this and here's all the techniques and tools. It's buy this because this is why we care.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's such a lovely note to end it on as well. And I love that you mentioned that you've gone from over-delivering on sales calls to making money in your sleep. Like, that is the absolute dream for an online business owner. That's so cool.
It is.
Yay! I'm so happy for you. Okay, final question. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice that you would share for anyone who's going through this process, not necessarily of hiring someone to help them, but just going through their first launch?
Loosen up is one, and be very, very clear on the values that you wanna convey in the copy, because I think that will be helpful for yourself, but also for that person that works with you. Any kind of person that works with you, just know this is the value, and then let the copywriter create the words around it, versus I want this word, but then it kind of gets mixed up with all kinds of messages. If anyone wants to scale and wants to really create a brand, and this is all about brand, is really sitting down. It's like, what do you want to make people feel when they read your copy? Again, for me, it's empathy, simplicity, innovation, and it shines through, and it makes it so much easier to communicate it to students, but also anyone who works for you. So these things, and we talked about this a lot, right? So these things really help because it also helps excluding what you don't want.
If anyone has any questions or is interested in your program, where's the best way to get in touch with you?
The best way is check out my beautiful copy on my website. My business is called Canine Decoded, so it's written out CANINE, caninedecoded.com, Canine Decoded on social media, Instagram, Canine Decoded on TikTok, Canine Decoded on Facebook. So anything Canine Decoded, you should find me. If anyone wants to talk more, I'm here to help.
Perfect, thank you. How amazing was that? If your launch didn't go quite to plan, but you're feeling inspired by Melanie's story, I recommend checking out my videos on turning a failed launch into a successful one. There's a video where I literally break down step by step the process that you need to implement if you were maybe a little shy of your launch goals. Even if you hit your goals, this is the exact process I use with clients to help them scale them and grow them and get even bigger results. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more launch strategies you can use to make more money in your business. I'll see you next week.